Xenonauts updated to 17.9. It's actually on 17.91 right now. As you might be able to see by this date, I am quite far behind. It's been well over a full week now. It's been like a week and a half. I've been so busy with work that any night I get off, I'm immediately trying to record Terror from the Deep or Fallout 1 or whatever else I got going on my channel. Haven't really had a chance to look at this, and also as a result of work, I kind of have to do it the lazy way because I don't really have the time to get in-game footage of all this stuff that's going on. It's a pretty major, huge update, as you can see. It's still in alpha, though. It is not the beta update. I'll stop highlighting. It is not the beta update. It is still in alpha. It is very late alpha, though. Beta is coming very quickly. If you want to read all this stuff on your own without hearing me talk about it, that is fine. I understand there's links in the description. Two separate links, as there is 17.9 and 17.91 that are both out. Right, basically I'm just going to read through this pretty much word for word, provide, my personal input, my thoughts, my feelings. You guys can discuss it in the comments if you want. And also as a side note, if you haven't picked up this game, why haven't you picked up the game? Is it an issue that you have with Desura? Not sure if this game's for you? You waiting for a certain feature? Waiting for beta? Let me know. Leave a comment. All right, first things first, the updated launcher. The old launcher, I said I'd stop highlighting stuff, but I clearly lied. The old launcher was very bare bones, very basic. I'll try to get an image of the new one off to the side here. But basically, this one is cross-platform compatible and now works on the Mac systems, allowing them to finally change resolution in an easier way. Because I know for a while there were a lot of issues with resolutions. I think the UI was really teeny tiny on higher resolution, so you had to go through a really backdoor way to get that to fix on a Mac system. I don't own a Mac, so I don't really know what they had to go through. I'd imagine it was kind of a pain in the ass. There's an RSS feed now, especially useful for me. I don't have to keep popping over to the forums now to check. I can just launch the game and it'll let me know there on the launcher if there's an update available. I can also change the save game location. I'll probably leave mine on the default, but I do like that you can change that, though. I always like when you can get that sort of customizability in your game. Just little things like that. Some people don't use them. Some people do, though. So I guess I don't know, maybe if you were, really paranoid about saved games, you could use a thumb drive, put that in, and then change the save game location to that thumb drive and unplug it when you're done with it. So that way you've got all of your saved games on one thumb drive, something like that. I don't know anybody who does it, but that feature's there for those of you who are interested in that. Stat tracking is something that was introduced one or two updates ago, fairly recently. Basically, it just grabs a bunch of data. It's anonymous stuff, but it's used for balancing purposes. It records, I believe, things like how many soldiers you used, what equipment you used, how long it took, stuff like that, I think. I don't really know for sure. But a lot of people don't like data being sent from their machine to some remote server out there. And now you can disable that very easily with, I'd imagine, a checkbox. Yep, tick box. Very nice there. Another one of those little things. Personally, I don't mind it, but I know people out there do. Crimson Dagger novella. Under the Extras tab, you can find Lee Stephens' prologue novella, Xenonauts Crimson Dagger. Not sure what that is. I imagine it's just a small short story. I imagine novella being a bit like a novel, maybe just a little smaller. Prologue though, so it's probably some sort of lore story type thing. I don't know. I'll look into it. Anti-aliasing disabled. You can now disable it. Some people had issues with smaller screens and the geoscape. It made it look really bad. The font borderline unreadable. So for those of you who have that issue, now you can disable the anti-aliasing, and it should be a lot sharper. Sweet title animation. The alien fleet orbiting menacingly above Earth is now animated. Feel the fear in real time. Just a little artsy touch there. Make it feel a little more professional. That's always nice. Little things like that I do enjoy. New UFOs. The game is still not fully balanced free to play to late game. Personally, I'm waiting for a beta to do another long play of it. I'll be recording that for sure. I'll be doing pretty much a full playthrough as soon as beta comes out. Providing it's stable enough, that is. It should be. He's been doing a lot of stability things. But we have the final landed UFO graphics in place up to the 6th UFO type, although the hand-painted floor is not yet done for that one. The final UFO will follow in the next build. I'd imagine that's not the .91, the next full build. Along with the first damage versions, the later ones are seriously, seriously big. That excites me. Something that I didn't like in UFO Defense and Terror from the Deep were the very large ships. Now, I understand the games are a good 20 plus years old. Well, actually, probably about 20 years old. Uh, one of these days here, getting there. It's a very old game, and I understand there were technical limitations as to why they couldn't make the ships stupidly big. But I always kind of wanted a very large to be like, you're going through the your battlescape, just the field approaching the ship, but the ship is so big that you only see like a wall of it. So like the east side of the screen would just be the wall of the sub, and the sub itself being a second part. I know Chris was asking how to handle the large ships because there were a few issues that he was having, and I'm not sure what he decided on. Looking forward to it for beta though, because that's when I'll probably find out. I haven't really touched this game lately. I just don't have the time, but beta, I will definitely make time for it. If I have to request days off work, then I probably will. But that definitely excites me. Very large ships. Awesome. XCOM Apocalypse, real quick, still on this. XCOM Apocalypse did it kind of right. Those ships were friggin' huge. It was like a giant dreidel, some of the bigger ones, but there was just so much empty space in there. So I hope these seriously, seriously big ships aren't just giant empty rooms. Hopefully it's relatively, full, some sort of like living quarters and stuff like that, tons of navigation and a huge engine room, stuff like that. We'll see though. Looking forward to it. Wall transparency. There is now a 2-tile transparency aura around all Xenonaut and visible aliens, which should make it much easier to see enemies. It's not infallible as it doesn't work for props at the moment, but it should be better than before. Okay, that's pretty nice. I'd imagine that is especially useful for if your soldier's kind of behind a wall or some cover at a certain angle. You'll probably be able to see them a little better. Updated research. There's been updates to the research tree. The Xenopedia is now a geoscape pop-up rather than the full screen thing it was before. So it's going to be somewhat, well, yeah, it's probably just going to be just a simple pop-up window. Should be pretty nice and clean, and maybe we can click and drag and move it around. Jackal armor and hunter armored car are now researchable. These actually have been in the game for a long time, hidden away in the files. I did see pictures of the Jackal armor, and it does look awesome. Not showing it though. Spoiler free here. We'll see it when we see it in beta. Hunter at the same time as the MIG, Jackal, and the alien plasma pistol. A lot of research descriptions have been updated. I think all the early to mid-game projects have research descriptions now. The only ones that don't are those in danger of being merged. That is one of those little things that has actually been upsetting me for a while now, are just some of the just a little things like a missing image or a missing description. Like you just research something and it doesn't have a description. It's like, oh, geez, okay, why is that here? I'm not really sure on some of that stuff, but I'm glad that finally some of the descriptions are getting rolled out. I know it's just one of the minor things, and it hasn't been at the top of his priorities, but nice to see that finally coming around. There's a number of new or updated Xenopedia images, including the first 3 autopsy images. There are proper guts everywhere and stuff, just like the original. Awesome. I love guts. Guts and blood. I got super excited when he added blood streaks and stuff like that to the game when you shoot an alien. Awesome. I just wish that the sniper bullet, as it pierced through the alien, would actually leave a small trail of blood behind at the entry point, basically. Just a nice streak of blood or something like that. Like the bullet just ripped right through and carried on. I wonder if it still shoots through ships. Not sure on that one. There's now a pop-up after each research project is completed telling you about anything new unlocked and giving you a link to the research screen. Just like Terror from the Deep or UFO Defense, that's also a very nice, streamlines the whole process. There's also a pop-up when a new research project becomes available as a result of the research project finishing, again, just like the original games. Very nice and streamlined. Improved AI. There's been some boost to the AI, so aliens should be better at taking cover now. We're not far from a big improvement, but GJ can't turn on the planning layer yet because there's a crash bug in it that he can't find. Hopefully in the next build of the code, hopefully in the next build the code will be done and it'll just be ongoing behavior tweaks. AI's been an issue with the game for a long time, hasn't really been focused on AI. I know firsthand AI is a complete pain in the ass to code. It's been an ongoing thing throughout the updates, and I'm noticing sometimes their behavior changes a little bit. Lately, they just kind of shoot at you and just run. Or sometimes they don't even shoot at you, they just run. Rendering. We've ripped out and replaced the previous rendering algorithm, which was struggling with multi-tile objects that would cause incorrect draw order in some cases. This new one should fix it. Took a while to sort that. Sadly, it's sort of an invisible thing, but believe me when I say it's a big improvement. I think that is when objects would overlap. I guess like the layers would kind of get jumbled around, like if the fridge would cut off part of the couch and it would cut off part of your soldier if you're standing in front of the fridge and stuff like that. You can see some of my earlier videos. That's just how the game was, and it fixed and it looked amazing. New sprites. I've done a lot of rendering recently. We've added new civilians to the Soviet town tile set and added female civilians to both types of terror sites. I've also re-rendered about 95% of all the seasons, seasons. I don't know. I'm probably going to go with seasons. I think it's seasons. Is it Caesar or Kaiser? I don't know. Anyway, they've been put in the game too. Previously, their sprites had inconsistent lighting from the different directions and had some setup issues. These should now be resolved. I love new tile sets and renders and stuff like that. More civilians, female, male civilians. Awesome. Kind of wondering, actually, with the improved AI, do civilians get a little smarter too, or do they still kind of do that weird crouch and spin thing? Do they just break dance in a corner when you find them? I don't know. I almost kind of like it. I think it should be kept in. It's kind of neat. Maps didn't make as much progress on this as I hoped, but I've added 2 new maps for the Light Scout to each tile set. There will be many more in the next version / beta. We've also harmonized the dropship maps across all the different tile sets. As a result, all the dropship maps are currently in a parking lot, whatever the tile set. This is a temporary thing until we get some code in place to let us overlap the dropship shadows or whatever ground is underneath it, which will be in place in the next build. Maps are also a bit like sprites for me. I love maps. Ideally, randomized maps, but I'm not sure how possible that is. At the very least, I'm pretty sure the Battlescape editor is somewhat functional, so maybe people, maybe people can make their own maps and put them into the game. So that might mean that someday people will release like map packs and stuff like that they made, and I can see like map contests and things like that. So we'll see. While it may not be 100% randomized, at least there is some customizability into it, and I hope that remains. Always nice, though, that he's conscious about the map thing and wants there to be a lot of maps. I looked ahead. He's hoping to have, I think, at least like 50 different maps or something like that for beta at the start. That's a good bit of maps there. I'm looking forward to it. Usability improvements. We've made a lot of improvements to the usability of the game. There is not an exhaustive list, just what I can think of off the top of my head. Also, there will be plenty more of these before beta. Geoscape. Alien invasion research is already in progress when you start the game. Makes sense. Aliens are invading. Let's figure out why. I'm okay with that. Second tile set world mask in place, letting us have some randomization of tile set even if UFOs are shot down in the same area each time. That's awesome. I actually wasn't sure if there'd be much randomization at all. Go to X pop-up windows on completion of vehicles or aircraft. Okay, so go to maybe the vehicle screen so you can equip it. Soldier equip screen selects the dropship category rather than the unassigned by default. The F-17, MiG-31, and Chinook aircraft have been renamed to their Condor, Foxtrot, and Charlie designations, respectively. This is consistent in keeping with later technology designations. Not really sure what that's all about. We'll probably find out when I do my long play, though. When an aircraft reaches a waypoint, the notification now has a return to base button. Reserve TUs can now be used to shoot with. This is an optional toggle in the options, but is set to allow shooting by default. The alien spotted graphics have been updated to look slightly better. Also, the icon for an alien that has been spotted by the team but is out of the current soldier's line of sight is now orange rather than 60% transparency red. That should make it clear. That's something I've also had an issue with, is when I see an alien but somebody else doesn't see it. because it's just out of the line of sight. It wasn't clear enough. I actually didn't even notice that it was 60% transparency. I didn't realize it was translucent. I didn't really even notice. Having it orange, though, that's good. I like that. Different color makes it very clear. Grenade selector. Right click on a grenade click slot. Now closes correctly when you click on a grenade to select it, rather than having to right click on the quick slot again to close it. Whew, awesome. Finicky control, stuff like that, always being worked on. Balance changes. We've done quite a bit of balancing, though this is only limited to the first couple of months. There's been too many bugs or issues recently for me to get too far into it. More will follow next build. Okay, balancing is always a trick. That's something that I'd imagine beta is mostly for. In my head, that's what beta is just the balancing. The game works, it's functional, there's a start and an end, but we're not sure on the everything in between. The early game, mid game, late game, how well does it work? All difficulty settings are now identical. I don't want there to be any discrepancy in the game balance that could be caused by difficulty settings at this stage. We'll balance them later. Aforementioned Hunter and Jackal made researchable and are no longer starting items. Okay. Starting cash reduced to $500,000. Starting soldier squad reduced to 10 men. Monthly maintenance and salary costs reduced. Starting monthly funding much reduced. Workshop build costs and build times much reduced. Workshop and laboratories have 15 working space. Living quarters now hold 35 people. Basers are now 6x6 instead of 7x7. So basically, he's made the game a lot harder. I'm fine with that though. The game was pretty easy. Like I was just doing whatever and actually kind of sort of getting it going. The issue that I had was the dog fighting when you shoot down a sub. And that's like a whole nother game there, is getting that thing figured out. Not that it's confusing, and there's key binding and stuff like that, so you can do everything on the fly if you want, but just getting used to the strategies wasn't so good at that personally. Invasion and air combat, longer between UFO waves. Missiles launch. Missiles achieve lock much faster, so they are effectively able to fire from longer range. Cannons now correctly fire at anything that enters their fire arc, rather than having to achieve lock first. Scout UFOs are now small, while light scout UFOs are very small, thus you can tell immediately whether to deploy a Condor or a Foxtrot against them. Foxtrot no longer made of glass. Awesome! Thank you. That was my biggest issue. The Foxtrot, I think, is the MIG. It's the first one you research, and yeah, it gets one shot a lot. Cooldown reduced on evasive rule for both alien and human side, making alien fighters more adept at dodging missiles, and scout UFOs slower than before. Now the same speed as Condors, but a lone Condor will not defeat a scout. Fair enough. So the air combat, a little bit of give and take there. I'm okay with it though, especially excited about the Foxtrot no longer being made of glass. That is awesome. Ground combat. Accuracy penalty for moving and shooting with heavy weapons reduced to 50% from 25%. This makes sniper rifles less overpowered as they're much less mobile than before. I'm okay with that. Sniper rifles were very overpowered before. They one-shot most things, you could shoot from forever away, and they didn't weigh you down any. Now they do. Machine gun ammo a lot heavier than before at 3 kilograms instead of 1 kilogram, and not a big difference, but big enough to probably hinder some of the weaker units. Aliens have much better stats than before, although the non-com with what am I reading? Aliens have much better stats than before, with the non-combatants in particular getting a major boost. Should be more frequent spawning of aliens outside of the UFOs now. I'm not really sure on this one here. Non-combatants in particular getting a major boost. Not sure what he means by that. I'll look into it. Bug fixes. Always, always, always bug fixes. Every update, there's bug fixes. Fix a few bugs too. Not an exhaustive list. Games no longer crashes if you're not connected to the internet, probably due to the information gathering thing. That was probably fixed. Wages / maintenance no longer deducted before your new funding arrives at month end. Reaction fire should no longer interrupt action / animations. The reaction fire should not stop burst fire after one shot. Soldier rolls now remember armor correctly. Base defense turrets upgrading correctly again. Clicking on the Xenopedia description text no longer makes it turn orange. That's a weird one. Is that just like the color it used to highlight or something? That's an odd bug. But it's fixed now. I think that's it. We'll post up a list of what we're working on for the beta in a separate post. Enjoy. But wait, there is more, because I am so bad at this that there is actually a second update. Build version 17.91 released. This is actually a much smaller one. It's mostly just bug fixing. Build 17.91 has been released. The polls will be updated as things progress. At present, the auto updater versions are available for premium pre-orders. There's a glitch affecting the standard branch, which I'm trying to resolve. The standalone versions are available on Desura. Probably best to download these. I usually always use the standalone versions. Nothing against Desura, but being able to just download the standalone from Desura's site and not use it through Desura, it's great. I wish Steam would do that. It's fantastic. The Mac/Linux versions will be ported if the build proves stable. 17.9 did not. That's typical. He doesn't like to port over to Mac and Linux when the game's not stable enough. That's just how it's been. Launcher loadup crash should be fixed. If it is still crashing on loadup, you can use the no video tag as a workaround. You can now save and load the game on the geoscape and ground combat. Whoa. Wait, where else would you have been able to save? Could you not save before in 17.9? Ooh, jeez, okay. Glad that's fixed. When you load a ground combat save game, all the men and aliens are no longer crammed in the top left corner of the map. Really? Oh my god, I kind of wish I played it on 17.9. That would have been fun. Just do like a really large, like a terror mission or something, and save the game, load it up, and everything's just top left corner, drop a grenade, and away you go. Man, when you load a Geoscape game, you no longer get the new technology available pop up. Huh. I always try to figure out, like, when somebody posts a bug fix, I always try to figure out what went wrong in the code to cause that to happen. Like the highlighting orange. Still trying to figure that one out. Hidden movement should correctly show projectiles by now, so your troops will no longer be gunned down without you being able to see it. Corvettes and other large UFOs no longer give ludicrous amounts of alloys when captured. You can no longer place base buildings outside the base grid area. The civilian light scouts still aren't spawning crew, despite my best efforts to fix it. As a result, I've disabled all civilian light scouts, so all light scouts now have the season Kaizen crew, none of which should be empty. Updates and balancing. Overlay tiles are now supported. This means the car parks all around the dropships have been removed and their shadows will overlay onto whatever terrain they're placed on. There are a few new maps. The Western Town terrorist site has been updated significantly, and the Soviet terrorist site now has a work-in-progress map. Alien bases also have a map now. These are things that I haven't been able to highlight in any of my update views, partially because I don't want to give out spoilers. Definitely recommend you guys play this game on your own. It's fairly stable. Most of the time. Sometimes an update comes out and it gets a little wonky, but usually if you check the forums, there's a quick hot fix like a day or two later. Generally fixes it. He's pretty good about that stuff. The rocket sprite has been replaced with a smaller and better version. The sight ranges of Kaizen, Season, still aliens has been reduced by 1 to 19. Oh, this is 1 greater than a soldier wearing basic armor, but 1 less than a hunter armored car. Oh, reduced by 1. Previously 20, now 19. Oh my god, the way I read it before, it's like, holy crap, that increased a lot. They were blind before. Alright, okay. All alien weapons have received a 10-point acceleration deduction? Accuracy deduction. Goodness. All alien weapons have received a 10-point accuracy deduction. The alien plasma rifle has been reduced to 0 mitigation, so will usually not one-shot a soldier wearing Jackal combat armor, though it should still instant kill a soldier with basic armor. The Jackal has been reduced in cost to $40,000. Shotgun range reduced by 1 from 8 to 7. Damage increased to 65, and the mitigation reduced to 0. This is a net increase to its close range firepower, so the shotgun definitely got a buff. The kinetic resistance of a Hunter and Jackal armor has been boosted significantly. This makes your armored car and Jackal armored troops much less vulnerable to early game friendly fire damage, but still just as vulnerable to alien plasma fire, which uses energy resistance. Finally, it should be noted that this build does not use any kind of compression, so it's about 135,000 files. I'm pretty sure that either our file archiving system or The file archiving system or the tile atlases have caused a lot of the texture issues in the last build, and I'm wondering if they may also be behind our invisible civilian bug. Therefore, this build is uncompressed, and we'll see how that affects these issues. In terms of balancing, I've not done too much of that this week, so the Corvettes aren't. So that once the Corvettes start arriving, my current balancing runs out, and you're on your own. Okay. From what I understand, the Desura guys at GDC are at GDC, so I don't know if the authorization is going to be particularly quick. So it might be a little while before this update gets out in Desura. I can actually, yeah, Desura actually is updating to 17.91 for me right now. So authorization, good to go. But again, I'm late doing this update too. So there's that. Whew. So yeah, beta definitely getting close here. These two updates, well, the 17.9 pretty big. This one fixing bugs for 17.9. Definitely a major update though. I can't imagine beta is very far away now. And as soon as beta comes out, well, pretty close to when beta comes out, no promises. I will definitely be doing a long play, full playthrough type thing, much like what I'm doing right now with XCOM Terror from the Deep and what I plan to soon do with UFO Defense. So definitely keep an eye out for me doing that. Hopefully beta comes relatively soon.